Big fight night on Saturday night as Canelo Álvarez is back boxing in Mexico as he will defend his undisputed super middleweight championship versus John Ryder. New York Post sports reporter Jared Schwartz, he talked one-on-one with Canelo before his fight, and now we're going to go one-on-one with Jared. Jared, how's it going?
Good, Dexter. How are you?
I am doing well, excited for this fight night. I'm sure you are too. And Jared, you talked to Canelo about several things, including rising boxing star Gervonta Tank Davis. Davis recently called himself the, quote, face of boxing after his April victory over Ryan Garcia. Álvarez is still arguably the biggest star in the sport. Does he still feel that he is the face of boxing?
Yeah, the Gervonta Davis-Ryan Garcia fight, during the whole promotion was billed as this is the fight for boxing. Whoever, or the face of boxing, whoever wins is going to be the face of boxing. And after Gervonta Davis won, he was asked in the ring by Jim Gray, does this make you the face of boxing? Let me ask you now. And he said, absolutely, with a few expletives in the middle. So Gervonta Davis has been pretty brash in saying he's the face of boxing. And, the numbers perhaps proved it. It did over 1 million per pay-per-view buys. And I think the gate was, the 5th highest gate in Nevada boxing history. So, the numbers certainly help prove that statement. But when Canelo Álvarez was asked to respond to that, he smiled and he said, "I'm not retired yet. I'm still in this game." So it's clear that Canelo Álvarez still thinks he's the face of boxing. He's been the face of boxing pretty much since Floyd Mayweather retired. He's fought in the biggest fights. He's won championships up and down in different weight classes. But he was a good sport about it. He said, Gervonta Davis is somebody that I see taking over that mantle, who I see carrying that torch after me, but it's not that simple. One mega fight that, against Ryan Garcia doesn't make you the face of boxing. This is something that's earned throughout a career, throughout winning, multiple titles, throughout putting on multiple mega fights like that. And I think it's also, it's easy to forget that Canelo Álvarez is only 32 years old. It's not like he's, in his late 30s and close to retirement. He's only 32 and Davis is only 28. So they're only, they're not that far apart in their age. Look, this Álvarez fight against Ryder is not the type of mega fight that Gervonta Davis against Ryan Garcia is. Álvarez is a huge favorite, but he's maybe not, if he's not at the height of his powers, he's certainly still somewhat in his prime. And, it's good. He thinks he's still the face of boxing. This fight against Ryder is expected to have over 50,000 fans in the stadium. It's going to take more than just one mega fight from Davis to take over that mantle for Álvarez, if Álvarez has anything to say about it.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that and the fact that it takes more than just one fight, although the fight was a good showing between Davis and Garcia for sure, but it does take a little bit more. So good to hear Canelo's response there. Now, Canelo, as you mentioned, is an overwhelming favorite in this fight against Ryder. It is his first fight since undergoing left wrist surgery in October. Is he concerned about fighting an opponent who, quite frankly, here has nothing to lose?
And, he had an interesting answer about that because, I think around Canelo Álvarez, all anybody really cares about is that rematch with Dimitri Bivol, which he'll probably go to after this fight. That was only the second loss in his career 2 fights ago when he moved up to light heavyweight and challenged Bivol, and he lost in a decision. And he was, pretty, maybe not on the scorecards, but it seemed like he was pretty, thoroughly beaten in that fight. And all anybody wants to ask him is about, okay, after you get done with Ryder, is that Bivol fight is going to happen? Where are you going to fight Bivol? What weight class is that going to be? And, it's almost easy to overlook Ryder. And, Álvarez had an interesting answer. He said, it does make a guy more dangerous when he's coming in with nothing to lose, when he's coming in with that mindset that he's got everything to gain and nothing to lose. And, it allows a fighter to kind of fight a little more freely, take a little more risk, go in there with that mindset that they, the only thing that can happen is something positive, and they don't feel that added pressure that maybe Álvarez does because he's defending a super middleweight title. If John Ryder wins, he'll win all 4 belts. So he can really let it fly. He can really take some risks and know that, defeat is almost expected for him. A win is would be obviously the highlight of his career. So Álvarez, certainly isn't looking past Ryder. He certainly isn't looking past the challenge that he presents, and I think fighting back in Mexico, in his hometown, will help that and help him, take that fight with the seriousness that it deserves.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be focused, not looking past Ryder for this one. And you just mentioned something else that I want to get to here before we wrap. He's fighting back home in Mexico for the first time since 2011. What does it mean for him to be fighting in his home country, particularly while what you said, he's still in his prime and he's doing this? So getting the fight back home, what does this mean for him?
Yeah, that last part, I think, is the most important. I think we've seen a lot of fighters make, swan songs or, fight in the twilight of their career, in their hometown, or return home to, where it all started, or in front of their hometown fans. At the end of their career, what's most important is if he's not in the height of his powers, he's somewhat still in his prime. He's coming to his hometown crowd to still give them a very high stakes fight. It's for the, like you said, it's for the super middleweight undisputed championship. There's high stakes. If it's not a mega fight against a mega opponent, it's still a very high stakes fight. And he said, it's funny. He was just named by Forbes the 5th highest paid athlete in the world. But he said, for this fight, at least, you don't get to that mark without caring about the money. But he said, for this fight, it's not about the money. It's not about the financial reward. This one is for his fans. They were the ones who supported him at the start. They're the ones who, elevated him to this level. And he hasn't fought there since 2011. So it's been over a decade since he, performed in front of them. So this is one where he's really kind of repaying, not that debt, but, repaying that support that his hometown fans gave to him when he first started.
Yeah, and we will see how that all plays out. Jared, fight going down on Saturday night in Mexico. Canelo Álvarez versus John Ryder. Should be an interesting one. We'll see how that all plays out. Great interview that you had with him, Jared, and we'll see if he is able to deliver in front of the hometown fans. That is Jared Schwartz, New York Post sports reporter. Jared, thank you for the time. Always good to talk to you.
Always a pleasure, Dexter. Talk to you soon.